Alright! Today we're going through Misconceptions episode 2. It's about Islamic Africa founded and civilized by the Arabic conquest.
Alright, this episode is brought to you by you guys. Yeah, it's sponsored by you guys. From the donation link in the description down below, Matthew donated like $5 and he told me to watch this, and that's why I'm watching it. You can do this too.
That's my best friend. That's my best friend.
Hello everyone, it's Jabbar here. If you haven't seen episode 1, I strongly recommend that you check it out. I'll put a link to it at the end of this video.
We already saw the first episode, right? Let's keep watching.
Last episode, I debunked the popular belief that sub-Saharan Africans were still in the Stone Age until Europeans introduced metal tools to them in the 15th century. In this video, I'll be covering another very commonly held belief. A belief that Islamic sub-Saharan African states were conquered or civilized by Arabs and were nothing but tribal savages prior to Arabic conquest. Also the belief that they shouldn't even qualify as African nations at all. Of course, there are very few.
Just to be clear, I don't know from where these beliefs come from. Like, I don't know, have you ever heard about this before? Because for me, I'm from Middle East. It's an Arabic country. I'm an Arab guy, and I never had this kind of belief before, and I never saw anybody who has this kind of belief, I guess, before. But maybe, you know, the Arabs who live in these countries believe like that. Who knows? But we we don't have this kind of information in our curriculum. What we do, like when we study the history of North Africa, we do study the actual, history of North Africa, you know? Yeah, like before Islam too. So there were, yeah, just to be clear, you know, I don't believe it. I don't know how it is a popular belief. I just don't know.
Few big reasons why this assessment is incorrect.
But it's true. The white man and Arabs had gunpowder, paper, writing systems, and all kinds of shit that you blacks never develop.
Okay, that sounds like not an Arab guy saying that. Just to be clear.
Are you sure about that? Last I checked, gunpowder and paper were Chinese inventions, and writing systems came to Europe from the Middle East. Alright, so where were we? The Middle East has traditionally been the focal point of the world's major innovations, and Middle Eastern peoples have always been the ones to spread them to other parts of the world.
Again, I really hate that we are always the center of attention. I fucking hate it.
With progress into Africa being significantly slower due to the Sahara Desert. While most North African civilizations were almost immediately conquered and converted by one large wave of Arabic invaders shortly after the founding of
I agree. They're totally invaders.
Islam, nearly all African states south of the Sahara were founded by black African people and ruled over by black African royal families, whether they were Islamic or not. Those that were Islamic were almost always willing converts. In most cases, peaceful conversion happened naturally over a long period of time through trade with Arabs and Berbers via
Yeah, it's I think it was too hard for Arabs to actually conquer these places like with the sword. So what they did is like mostly by trade and actually social relationships and stuff like that. It's really interesting, by the way.
The trans-Saharan trade, as opposed to North Africans who succumbed to one fast sweep of Islamic invasions between the years of 647 and 709 CE. Even the small percentage of sub-Saharan Africans that were forcibly converted were usually done so by other black African Islamic nations.
What? This is weird. Why would you do that? Fucking hell.
Not Arabs or Berbers. Such is the case with the Fulani Jihad that took place between the years of 1804 and 1808. and resulted in the conquest and conversion of a large expanse of West African land, and the eventual formation of the Sokoto Caliphate.
I have no idea about these things whatsoever. It's like I don't live on this fucking planet. I love this kind of information, like, because we don't really, like, even though we studied like the history of North Africa, and we know what's going on there, and we know that there was, like, you know, big sweep of like invasions and conquests that converted the whole fucking planet, like the whole fucking thing there. But it was not Arabs. It was just the other African Muslims who did that. This is really interesting, by the way.
The Mali Empire, though Islamic, retained its own local flavor of it, blending local customs and traditions with Islamic religion in somewhat of an unorthodox manner. With women, for example, retaining relative freedom and equality and being able to walk around without the burqa or hijab.
Okay, there's another misconception about the burqa and hijab thingy. It's not actually in the book somehow, you know, that you have to do it. It comes from tradition, Arab traditions, and also it comes from like Arabs and Arab tribes living in the desert that they needed to cover their faces. Like, until now we have the Saudis and other like Gulf countries that they do have this, like, even for men they have this kind of, you know, like this kind of scarves or shmag that they cover themselves. It's because of the desert mostly. This is how it started, but they took it as a tradition. You know, it's not because of whatever kind of religious idea, like, you know, whatsoever. But at the same time, just like any other, you know, religious book, so many people take it differently. Okay, so I think, at least this is my belief, that the hijab and the burqa, at least the burqa, okay, because the burqa is not even in the Quran, not even the hijab, by the way. It's really interesting. So they took it from the tradition, the Arabic tradition. So that's why, for example, some kind of you know, a Muslim empire in Africa, they didn't take that because they didn't need to do that, because it's not their tradition. And that's what I think, at least. This is solely my interpretation of the whole thing, okay? It's not something like, you know, 100% right.
A sharp contrast to other Islamic states. Its architecture was also strongly dominated by local building customs and traditions, containing some of the largest mud brick structures in the world, even to present day. This is most evident in the Sudano-Sahelian architecture, which has been the style of choice for much of Sahelian West Africa since 250 BC, long before Islam was even born, and is even still used today. This also shows that these states weren't civilized by Arabs. Most of them already had indigenous states and civilizations in place prior to their conversion.
Again, Arabs had, like, not so many, like, I don't know, let's say civilizations back then. It was only the Middle East, okay, and like the actual Arab people, the Nabatees, that they were like 2000, like, I think, like a few, like maybe 100, 200 years BCE. So it's almost 2,500 years ago or something like this. And Jordan, which is Petra, the Nabatees. Again, I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm just like, I have no references. I have no fucking idea what I'm doing.
Including Dar Tichet, which was part of a collection of some 2,000 West African stone-walled settlements that have been dated to at least 1500 BCE, long before the presence of any Arabic explorers or even the Islamic religion.
Yeah.
Through archaeological excavations, these sites were proven to have been built by the Soninke people, a Niger-Congo group from sub-Saharan Africa. The Ghana Empire is believed to be the successor state of these stone settlements, and was also firmly established and thriving and remained largely non-Islamic for most of its history. Even when conquered by Islamic Almoravid dynasty, the Empire of Ghana was able to regain its independence after just 10 years, and never converted to Islam, despite a few sects of its residents becoming Muslims. Countless states in and around Islamic Africa remained independent, prosperous, and just as powerful as their Islamic neighbors, such as the kingdoms of Benin, Ashanti, Mosi, and Dahomey, which had direct contact with Islamic nations and peoples yet still retained their own local religions, customs, and traditions, all the while competing with their Islamic neighbors militarily and economically. Some parts of Africa had no Islamic connections whatsoever, yet they still amassed incredible wealth and power, such as the kingdoms of Congo, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. This is not to say that Arabic influence on African kingdoms did not exist, because it certainly did. Formerly illiterate societies often adopted the Arabic writing system, and others took cues from Arabic mathematics, military, architecture, and armor.
You know, like, you know, as much as I'm like not really a big fan of the whole religion thingy, imagine like before Islam, Arabs were absolutely nothing. Nothing. They were just a bunch of tribes in the desert, just getting drunk and killing babies. They were actually killing every female baby that they get. So yeah, I guess there's an upside.
This is most evident in the Swahili people, whose language and architecture show strong Arabic influence. However, Arabs didn't go to a land of savages living in grass lean-tos like many people assume. They simply brought change and exchange of ideas in a similar fashion to what happened throughout Eurasia's history. In fact, Europeans had no farming, no metal tools, or any domesticated animals until the innovations were brought to them from the Middle East. Even after
I'm sorry. It's really, as much as I hate being here and I hate being from here because of all the attention we have as the Middle East, but there's like just a little bit of me that gets very proud and excited that all the innovations and culture and all of these things came to the Europeans from the Middle East. Just to be clear, they didn't have farming, for God's sake. What the hell? What the hell were they doing exactly?
After the formation of states like Greece and Rome, Europeans still continuously borrowed from innovations that were brought to them from the Middle East, such as compasses, gunpowder, and paper, which in turn, the Middle Eastern people had adopted from the Chinese. Gunpowder was brought to Europe through war and conquest in the 13th century during the Mongol invasions. Christianity is also something that has its origins in the Middle East.
Of course.
Even our modern numerals of 0 through 9 are referred to as the Arabic numeral system, and were introduced to the West from Arabs who adopted and adapted them from a similar set of characters that originated in India.
Yeah.
Spain was under Islamic rule between the years of 711 and 1492, where dramatic changes in art, architecture, medicine, and science took place, which these Islamic nations that controlled them take credit for. Islamic peoples also conquered and ruled over Greece in the mid-15th century, and held these lands until the fall of the Ottoman Empire in World War I.
This is so fucking crazy. You know, the Ottoman Empire is just like 100 maybe 20, 30 years ago. That's it. Well, 120 years ago, I guess. Something like that. Or 110 years ago. That's it. There was like an Ottoman Empire. This is fucked up, guys.
With that said, if Islamic civilizations of sub-Saharan Africa are to be considered conquered or civilized by Arabs or people of the Middle East, then European nations and just about every other Eurasian nation also deserve that title to some degree. Indonesia, which has the largest and one of the most oldest Islamic populations in the world, should also carry that banner.
Yeah, but Indonesia, it was only by trade, I think. There was no war whatsoever. They were just buying and selling things, and that's how they did. That's the thing about Islam. It's just I don't know how this fucking. Yeah, I think we should study this in the channel.
The entire modern world today is built of a massive soup of innovations from diverse groups and cultures constantly competing, adopting, and improving upon the technology and cultural trends of others.
Yep.
The most important accomplishments in metallurgy, agriculture, and writing that changed Europe forever have their origins in the Middle East. Therefore, it is illogical to shut out African accomplishments just because they have done the same thing.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm happy about this. Like, I really have no connection with this fucking... Seriously, with the culture here, with the way people are living, everything, like, in me as a person here. I have nothing in common with anybody around me. Only maybe the name or the color of the skin or these things. But as me, my brain and everything, like my soul and everything, I have no connection whatsoever. But in the same time, when I hear somebody like him saying that all the innovation that Europe had are connected directly to the Middle East, I feel a little bit proud. This is fucked up, guys. I should not be proud about these things. It's not me. And now it's fucked up. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe and smash that like button. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace the fuck out.
That's my best friend. That's my best friend.